Hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back again. And this time I'll be talking about Gladiator II. Now, I know this movie came out in the end of last year. Um, I pretty much heard about it during the summer of last year, so there were a few months where I was excited to watch this movie in particular. I had watched Gladiator, it's one of my favorite movies. And this movie is back from 2006, so it's been a long time. I never thought that there would be a second sequel to the original Gladiator. Now, before anything else, I do want to address some of the criticisms I've read and heard online, and mainly that it it relies on like the first Gladiator, or that it didn't feel like a Gladiator film. I'll just be honest with my opinion, and it's basically I enjoyed the movie. Right? Um, the long and short of this is that the movie is good. You just have to kind of like temper a little bit your expectations, and where I think the movie got it could have improved was in how they addressed how this Gladiator, the sequel, is related to the first movie. Because there is quite a bit of difference. I mean, the first movie came out in 2006, so 18 years later, now we have the second. So, and I imagine there have been plenty of people who have watched this movie who might not have watched the first movie, or who, even if they did watch it, they didn't rewatch it. So it's not like it's new in their mind. Now, having that out of the way, uh, again, this is like a non-spoiler review. I would encourage people to watch the movie if they can. So out the box, uh, you do have that. There are in the beginning of the movie there are scenes that are playing out that play like a recap of the first movie. Now I see that as a good move because again, the first movie came out about 16 years ago. Not many people are going to be remember, um, unless you've been consistently rewatching the movie over the years. But other than that, I mean, you do need that refresher and a little bit of that context for the people who are coming into this movie not having seen the first movie. Now they do kind of jump around a bit with the recap scenes, showing how Maximus, he was the general um, for the Caesar, and then how he was basically branded as a traitor. He lost everything. He lost his family. No reason, nothing else in his life. He starts from the bottom as a slave, rises up the rank. He rises to the role of a gladiator, gains fame, and through that way he gets his revenge on the main person responsible for him losing everything. So after that recap, we then go to this scene which is outside of Rome. So if you remember, we in the first movie they start outside of Rome in Germany, um, when Rome was trying to conquer the wild Germans, right? So we start from there. We work our way over back to Rome. This time it's kind of similar, and there's going to be a lot of similarities, by the way. So we have this village over by what I would describe as like North Africa, Morocco, you know, that sort of area. And the Romans come over, and you have the centurions. They're under ships, and the village is ready to defend. Uh, and we follow this young man who, well, I don't know if he's necessarily young. I don't really remember if they say his age, but at any rate, we follow him, and his name is Lucius. Uh, you see Lucius go to his wife. This is a village that is used to fighting. They confront the Romans. They lose. Lucius is taken in. He's sold as a slave. As a slave, he gains value as a gladiator. You can see where I'm going with this. So similar to with Maximus, Lucius, he rises the ranks, so to say, um, gaining popularity as this, as this fighter, as this kind of like model, you could say. Not so different as how we see our athletes today, or MMA fighters or boxers. You get the picture. Like people who are very, physically apt are celebrated by society, and in this movie, it's very similar as well. So, as a gladiator, he gains his prestige, and that gives him access to go back to Rome. Now, Lucius has this backstory where he had originally, you know, he had originally fled from Rome, and now he's back. And that's kind of like the last thing he wanted or needed. But again, he does go back to Rome. He lost his wife. He loses basically everything. And now we have the fights. Now, the fights in the Colosseum, I would say they're a very much of an upgrade. If you go back to the original Gladiator, the fight scenes are very good. I mean, the fight scenes are fantastic, and they get you excited. And then you're kind of like as if you're in the Colosseum, looking at the fights and getting excited by what's going on. In this movie, Gladiator II, there even is like this fight where they recreate the battle at sea, and they fill the Colosseum with water, and then there's ships, there's even sharks. I mean, it gets intense, it gets crazy. It's so absurd that it's fantastic. I was basically, in awe with everything that they can do today. And you can still tell that some parts are CGI, but still, given the difference in quality, you can really tell how far we've come with CGI and all these technology. And the fights again, they're intense. Lucius does his role as a general because he was a general back in the sea village where he was living his life, and it was intense. Now, they do in this movie, they do this thing which it's one of the few criticisms I have of the movie, and that is the new emperor, or I should say emperors, are two twins. And, it's Emperor Gida and Emperor Caracalla. So it's very, very, but how can I explain this? In the first movie, the main antagonist with Joaquin Phoenix, his character is well presented. You knew where he came from, you know who he was, before he was the Caesar. You knew what were his reasonings and his intentions from the very first 20 minutes of the movie. You know why he killed the emperor. You know why he made Maximus a traitor, quote unquote. So you knew the antagonist, and you really had the feel of, okay, this is why he's doing it. We'll go along with the story now. In this case, with Gladiator 2, there are not just one, but there's at the very least three antagonists in this film. So Emperor Gita, Emperor Caracalla, they're twins. They never really do explain properly where they come from. I mean, did they become emperors because when the emperor died, and then who would have been the inheritor to the throne has to flee for his life? Now the next kin comes into play, or were these like a new family that came in, grabbed the power, and now these twins are the new emperors? I mean, it doesn't really explain where they come from to begin with, and you know i- it's very tough to kind of wrap your head around. Okay, what are their origins? Like, what are they doing there in the first place? Of course, if you haven't seen the first film, or if you haven't seen it in a while, you might not have been that surprised because you wouldn't kind of get fixated on that detail. But for me, I was something that it had me going for a while, thinking of, okay, where do they come from? But I will say the actors do a really good job because the twins are supposed to be these, you know, they're crazy, um they're very, exuberant and in their ways. They're, I mean, they really are, that quintessential emperor who doesn't care about anything and just looks at their pleasures, you could say. So it's very, very interesting, like the characters that they chose, but the actors did play the roles very well. Now, one scene where in the first film they have, Maximus, he fights, he impresses the people with the first fight in the Colosseum during the games. Uh, the Emperor comes down to meet him and greet him, and Maximus basically at first he refuses to tell him his true identity, but then when he does, he kind of rattles the Emperor because they knew each other and it was very much a I thought I had killed you moment, but now you're here in front of me. What am I to do? Well, in this film, Lucius, he doesn't know the twins directly, so it's not like, oh hey, we meet again. But they do have a party, the twins, and they invite him as kind of like a special guest. But not just that, they do this wager where they say, you know what, I think this gladiator could defeat this like well-renowned, you know, almost retired gladiator. And the other twin is saying, nah, that retired gladiator, he has he is much stronger and he can, basically kill Lucius. And out of the blue, they just create this fight. They make their own mini Colosseum fight inside the party. For obvious reasons, you're not going to be surprised. Lucius wins, and the people are quite, excited, ecstatic because this is the same gladiator whose net they see was they at first they thought was a dark horse, and now all of a sudden, oh, he's probably going to do great things in the arena, right? So that was that. Now there's a lot more things that happen during the film, but it all comes down to, you know, we get to finally discover, Lucius's true identity. Um, we discover why he fled Rome. He reunites with his mother after a long time of not having seen her. Um, of course, there's going to be some tension and some resentment because, well, he left when he was still young, and now he had his life. He had a life. He lost that life, and now he's back there in Rome, still endangered. And his mom had moved on. She remarried. She had another. So, there is a lot of that family dynamics, which is very compelling. I mean, s- I would say it's similar to how when you look at films or stories that are about war, like the Vietnam War, World War II, World War One, soldiers that go and fight in a distant land, and then, you know, they don't know they're coming back alive. The families don't know if they're back alive. And when there's no news, the family just says, well, is he alive? Is he dead? When the soldiers come back, not all of them come back to normal. Not all of them come back to a family. Sometimes, they lasted so long and there was no communication that the families think, oh, they already died. They mourn their loss. The families move on. The wives remarry. They have their own family. And so when the soldiers come back, what are they coming back to? And it's similar to what happened to Lucius. You know, despite everything, because there was not that communication, and because it's been that long time, and he even had his own life. When he comes back to Rome and he reunites with his mother can't. Well, she recreated her life. Of course, it didn't help that his mother was kind of in between the politics happening in Rome. So that also means that she had a part to play. And that part to play, did involve her needing to remarry to still retain a certain level of power within that, political scheme that was going on. And of course, Lucia's not happy about it. Mm, sorry, I had a very hard lunch, so I was checking on something. But Lucius, he's still more jealous of his father. He's still more jealous of his wife. There is a lot going on. Um, when if we jump forward a bit, well, not jump forward. Let's change the focus a bit because again, I did say there were three antagonists. The third one is strange, and it's strange how they portrayed him, like how they decided to write the character. Um, Denzel Washington, he actually did a very good job with the with the role. Um, I'm talking about the character called Macronus. Now, there is quite a while in a way where you're exposed to the character, but you don't know his name before you learn his name. And you don't really understand his intentions until like the very end of the movie. And that's another criticism that I have where there might have been too many antagonists or too much going on because even though it was well done in the end, like how one antagonist was um, playing the other antagonist, it still comes down to you have to kind of follow along. Of course, it's easy to follow along, but there's so much going on at any moment that unless you're paying attention, you might get lost as to what exactly is happening in the plot. So I do think that it could have been done a little bit differently, but I don't know. I still liked how the story went, so I'm not really that concerned about that. Now there are a few returning characters. I mean, you do have, um, for example, Lucia's mom, who we saw in the first movie. We also had um, Maximus' gladiator friend. He also comes up. Um, I mean, we do see a few of the same people um, from the original movie, and I'm kind of also glad that they didn't really focus that hard on, hey, remember this from the movie? They kind of made it their own, but interesting enough, they do recreate some things. You know, they recreate things like, yes, they start out of Rome. The main character loses everything and has to return to Rome. The character becomes a renowned gladiator. He does the sand thing on his hands, putting the dirt in his hands and kind of rubbing his hands. Uh, you also have like some of the fights where, uh, if you remember, there was a fight with the uh, horses on chariots. Well, in this movie, they're not horses; they're elephants, and so they recreate some of the patterns in the first movie, but they make it their own, and it's really fine because it's one of those things where, mm, yes, it's kind of copying the first film, but still, it's its own entire film. So they're not copying the homework word for word. Now, to jump over towards the end, um, Lucius, the same as Maximus, when he defeats the main antagonist, and he returns the power back to the people. And it's the same thing. Lucius didn't want the power for himself. He only wants to live, a happy life, and that's what he achieves. I mean, at the end of the day, when they reveal his true identity, he is, an inheritor to the throne, and it's in his hands to either continue the empire or reconvert the Roman Empire into a democracy, a Roman republic. So that's kind of like the story and how it goes. And again, there's so much I could say because the movie was like 2.5 hours long, something like that. I could, talk about the music, how it was fantastic. Personally, I do prefer the music from the first movie, but this second movie, the soundtrack is amazing. Like I would still buy the soundtrack to this second film. I mean, it was still good. It's one of those things that it will probably get you pumped up to go to the gym, or if you're trying to do some tedious task and make it epic. Um, I could also, go on and on about like some of the other characters. Like uh, Lucius also has a friend, a gladiator friend. Uh, he also, does the same thing where he doesn't want to talk for a while, but then Lucius does open up and starts making friends. Um, I could go on and on. And to be honest, I've heard from a video review that it was too long. They could have been cut down short on a couple of areas. I didn't feel that way. I was engaged in the movie the entire time. I did not feel the time go by. And in fact, I had popcorn and a drink, and still I was like at the edge of my seats, and I didn't remember that I had to go to the bathroom until the credits were rolling. And even then, I wanted to wait to see the entire cast, the entire credits, in case there was like an end credit scene, and there wasn't, but still, it was amazing, like how much work got into it. And that's kind of my take. I mean, is this movie good? Is it bad? Honestly, it's well worth full price to see it in the movie theater, especially like in a big screen, like in IMAX. And it's definitely worth it if you do like a matinee, a half price type of thing, where you see it in the morning, so the ticket is half price. It's really well worth seeing this movie. Um, you know, Provided that you have the time to watch the movie because it is very long, and provided that you like that type of film. It is enjoyable. I would say it's if I could get it on Blu-ray, I'll get it on Blu-ray because I will rewatch it as much as I have rewatched the first Gladiator film. And actually, the only reason why I don't have that first Gladiator film in Blu-ray is because I haven't found one in Blu-ray, so I have it on DVD, and of course I've had it for years now. Not part of the conversation, not relevant, but thought I would mention it. Anyways, if you have any thoughts, any opinions about the movie, maybe you saw it, or you want to see it, or maybe you don't want to see it from what you hear of me talking about the film, you know, either way, leave a comment, be nice to each other. Not that anybody really writes comments on these videos that I make, but at any rate, I'll leave it there for now. It's already too long. This this video is already too long, but still, have a great day, and remember, be kind to one another, because you never know what someone else is going to do. See you later. Bye-bye.